Tom Thrasher, Chairman of the Nelson County American First PAC, and I want to welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming, thank the local media for coming out, thank the candidates for agreeing. This is an important process. The judge executive race is the most important in this county, and they have a lot of obligations and power to start. So I think this is going to be a good opportunity for people to ask, for the public, for you guys, to have a voice and to ask questions. I think that's really important. So we're going to start out, and we're going to have a coin toss to see who goes first for opening.
You got coin?
I got coin.
Two-headed coin, I'm sure.
You have two. You got to call it. Here. No. Here. All right. This is going to be fair. I'm going to let it drop so both you guys can see it. So there's no funny goes. Ready? So,
Eric,
you want to call it? All right. Ready?
Tails. Heads it is.
Heads. All right.
So that's for what?
So
That's the opening.
that means you go first. Or
Your
your choice. Your choice, I guess.
Yeah, you said for the two, the opening and then the two.
Right. This is for just the opening.
And then the last for the closing,
We're
first.
gonna do, you're gonna flip it again at the
We'll flip
end?
it again for the closing.
I'd like to do, can we do the pledge of allegiance before we
We're
start?
about.
All right, good.
Hold on. I just wanted to welcome everybody first. Hold on. Don't worry, we got the pledge. So if everybody will stand with us and say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, so the moderator that we wanted to have a more neutral moderator, and Dennis George has graciously agreed to do it, and I'm going to turn this over to Dennis at this point.
Thank you, Don. My name is Dennis George. I was a reporter for the Kentucky Standard and covered politics as part of my beat. Currently, I am a writer for some of the Paxton Media Group newspapers that include the Standard, and as part of that, I also cover a lot of the politics in this area. I do want to say I was a little bit surprised but honored that Don would ask me, because we are not quite on the same page of the political spectrum. But I think he thought that I could do this in a fair manner to both candidates. I am a Democrat, so I'm going to put that out on the table. But my relationship with Tim Hutchins probably goes back about 40 some years ago when I was in the beer business and he had the store. I do know Eric from the time that I covered fiscal court, but I want to lay all of that out right before we start. Tonight, each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. I will then start asking some questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. The candidate who answers the question first will have the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal. When I reverse and go to the second candidate, he will answer, then the other one will answer, and that one that we asked first will get 1 minute for a rebuttal. They have been told that they have 2 minutes to answer a question. Ms. Ballard is keeping the time. They will be given a 30-second warning. Then she will also give a sign when their time is up. At that point, they must quit talking, and if they continue, they will have less time to answer the next question. We're also going to take questions from the audience, and Don has a list. And if you'll come up and sign, and he has a list for people from the Democratic side and from the Republican side, and you will just sign up. We will call you to come up to the podium. There is a microphone there for you to ask your question. The candidates have agreed that any question from the audience must concern Nelson County government. If someone asks a question, and for some reason I'm going to be the one, they ask me to be the judge as to whether or not a question is pertinent or not. So if you ask one that I think is outside the bounds of what they have asked, they will not answer the question. But that is an agreement that the candidates came upon, and that is what we are going to do. This is an important debate. This is an important election for Nelson County, and I think you all would agree with that. That's why you're here tonight. We are here to listen to the candidates, answer questions on issues that will affect Nelson County. We're going to ask that there be no clapping. This is not a sporting event. No clapping, no cheering, no booing, and no hissing. We ask you to come here tonight to listen and not be a part of what is happening other than to come up and ask a question. The sheriff is here with the deputy. If someone gets out of hand, you will be asked to leave. And if this thing gets out of hand, we could just stop it. So we ask that everyone please be respectful of the process. Mr. Hutchins?
If you want to say that, just tell them to come up. And
Yeah, if you do want to ask a question, come and see Don, and he will take those and have you
Come on up. Just come on
sign
up,
the sheet.
and you guys can sign up. I'm going to put it right here. Just please, you're welcome to sign up.
You want to, Don, do you want to wait, or do you want to go ahead with
No, right now is good.
Okay, go ahead with the statement.
All right,
Yeah.
I want to toss, I'll let him go first.
I thought that about the winner.
The winner gets the choice.
Winner gets a choice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's not bad yet.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much for everyone that's showing up here tonight. I did get to prepare a little bit for an opening statement. I'm just really pleased to see so many folks have showed up here tonight. First of all, I would like to thank everyone that was involved that kind of put this event together. I would like to thank the media for being here. I would like to thank Don Thrasher for inviting me to be here. I would like to thank my family. I would like to thank my friends and everyone else. For those of you that don't know me, I am Eric Shelburne. I'm currently serving as your 5th District Magistrate. My wife Stephanie and I have been married for nearly 25 years. We have 2 great children that I'm so proud of. Emma is 21 and Jack is 17. Emma, she's working in our small business there in Bloomfield. It's sheer magic. And Jack will be graduating this year from Nelson County. He's made straight A's the entire time he's there. I'm so impressed with that. I spent my entire life in public service. I achieved the rank of Eagle Scout in high school, and after graduating, I enlisted in the Army where I fought in Desert Storm. Following my service time in the military, I came back home and became a lineman and served for over 22 years at the city of Bardstown. I ran for magistrate in 2018, and I've been working hard for my district and for the whole of Nelson County ever since. With my experience working in local government service for nearly 30 years and the relevant and the current service I presently am serving, also the relationships I've forged at the local and state positions, makes me the candidate that can move Nelson County forward and be the next county judge executive. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Hutchins, and I want to thank Don and his American First PAC group. I wouldn't be here without my wife, Christy, that's helped me through the primary that we was very proud to win. I've gave several talks and speeches in the last 6 months, I guess. So it's been overwhelming with all the support that I've had in the primary, and again now we're going all over the county. It's a big county when you go from Chaplin to New Haven to New Hope, and then back in Bardstown. It takes a lot of time there, but I've got a lot of supporters, and just want to thank everybody that's been helping me. And it's been very supportive. And my career, everybody I think knows now, I ran Handy Food Mart for the last 40 years. We built the store in 1972. My dad, mom, and family, we actually physically built the store. We're celebrating our 50th year this year. I've been there the whole time and remodeled it a few times. It's been very good, and I'm very blessed for the community that's allowed us to serve this community for 50 years. I'm very proud of that. I started a construction company about 27 or 8 years ago. I actually started running the store about 40 years ago. I've been managing it about 40 years. Started a construction company about 27, 8 years ago. I've been developing properties and building homes and putting in infrastructure. So I've got a background that pertains to a whole lot of what local government has to do. And I farmed all my entire life. I've raised, thousands of hogs and hundreds of head of cattle and hundreds of acres of tobacco all my life and still farm. So I've been doing that ever since I was a kid. I got out on my own, did the same thing for all my adult life and still farming. So I've got a good mixture, a good background, business background, and been involved in the community service my entire life with churches and schools, and coached about 17 years in grade school, middle school, AAU, and high school, and benefits and fundraisers and just numerous things in community service, which that's what I think is important, to get more people involved in the community. Then I got in public service, and I was a master. It started in 1994, and then I was a master for 17 years. I've been out of the loop for about 10 I guess 12 years now, so that's pretty much my background. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go back in the same order, that start asking questions with Mr. Shelburne.
Yeah.
What are the two, and limited to two, most pressing issues facing the next judge executive for the next 4 years?
Well, there's a laundry list of things that I'm wide-eyed about with the challenges that the fiscal court's going to look at in the future. One of the most challenging things that I think that the next fiscal court is going to have to endure is, we could possibly have 4 new magistrates, and we're definitely going to have a new judge executive. There's going to be a new county attorney that's never served before. There's going to be a new jailer that's never served before. So that compiled with employee retention, getting qualified employees and retaining them is going to be difficult going into the future, because they are really the backbone of the services that we have. And without good employees, you lose service. I feel like I'm the qualified individual that can really bring all that together, building those relationships, currently serving. I have not been out of the loop for the last 12 years. I've been serving the last 12 years. I really feel like that's going to be very important as we dig our heels into pressing and moving Nelson County in a forward direction. I also feel like working for local government has given me the opportunity to really see what it takes to retain employees. They're so related from the county to the city. I know and I realize that those things are unique to an individual's perspective that has been serving there.
Same question. My opponent's talking about employees. I've had hundreds and hundreds of employees. I keep about 30 to 40 on payroll all the time, so I do know how to work with employees and how to write payroll checks. And I think the two most pressing needs is going to be that the inflation in our economy that's affecting local government in the same way, because blacktop's up about 30 to 40%. Trying to get, people's asking for internet all over the county. We're trying to get that, and it's cause, you know, you're getting about 6 miles instead of every 10 miles because inflation inflation's at a 40-year high. Interest rates just went up to the highest since 2008. And with the leadership that you come out of Washington and the left side. So I think that's our most important pressing issues right now. You can't blacktop so many roads, you can't put as much internet in, you can't put as much high pressure water lines in and everything just because of the policies that are going on. So I think that's affecting our local government more and more and more every day. And this inflation is really getting scary. So I know how to work with employees. I don't know how many's in the county, over 200 something employees. I've worked with many of them here today and had 5 magistrates. And so we, you know, I've got a record of working with people. And I think that's very important.
Mr. Sheldon, you have 1 minute to rebut.
Can't hold on to this thing till you got to pass it over. Anyway, you know, the thing, my opponent speaks of building hardwired internet into the county. That's one thing I'm quite proud of that I've been able to accomplish in the last 4 years as magistrate. We have built miles of hardwired internet. Even before we got to ARPA funding, I was able to extend internet service to Dugan Lane. I was able to run up 1066 in my district. I was also, through the relationships that I have cultivated with the city of Barstown over several years, over 22 years actually, and Yates Cooney Neck. Now that we have had the ARPA funding available, we are now able to extend those services into the far reaches of the rural areas of the county that need that service desperately. You know, especially COVID has really shined a light on the problem that this is. It really needs to be a utility, just as it's almost as important as electric. You know, it's if you're going to have to work from home, if you're going to have schools, then it's important to have internet service, and I'm proud to be a part of that.
Okay, before we go any further, I think we need a sign language refresher here. Okay.
This
Since you
is
have
30 seconds. Stop.
30 seconds.
You need to hit the button.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'm talking to these people, I don't see you.
I know it's kind of hard,
Yeah,
really.
just wave your hand in for the 30 seconds.
Yeah. It is. It's hard to see, really.
We gotta be honest about it, I'm just looking, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
If you had like a
Watching the sun
card or
shining
something.
in.
Next question will go first to Mr. Hutchins. You have alluded several times, I think at the Ag debate and again tonight, in some ways bringing Washington to Nelson County with inflation and bringing that in. This is a local election where when the election day, when the election is come and gone, friends are still friends and people still will run into each other. And I'm going to ask both candidates, Mr. Hutchins, would you commit to not running and talking about Mr. Shelburne and liberal Democrats and talk about local issues?
No.
Is that your answer?
I mean, you asked me to answer.
All right, then,
I'm gonna elaborate because I'm not talking about Mr. Shelburne, I'm talking about the politics. He belongs to the Democratic Party, which I was for years. The Democratic Party left me, like it did most people in this county and in the state, and we've got a red state now. And more and more counties are moving that away, the country's moving that away just because of the policies. There are a lot of good registered Democrats in this county. But as you can see in Washington, and it does, elections have consequences, Dennis. George, or you had Mr. Biden's policy when he signed those executive orders, and you ask the farmers if $4.79 or $5 don't affect them, and the fertilizer is about 3 times higher than it was last year. You go to the grocery store and talk to all these people out here, it's 40% high. So yes, I think it does have consequences, and in the national elections, I mean, why do we vote for a president? I guess there's a reason in it.
okay, then I guess
I mean, I don't know what you're asking me, but I think you saying the national politics don't have anything to do with local, I would 100% disagree with that.
All right, Mr. Hutchins, would you commit to not running advertising and tying Mr. Hutchins to right-wing,
Talk about me or him?
no, I'm talking to him, maybe a right-wing Republican and tang him and
Said
and
Hutchins.
focus on local issues.
You said Hutchins, you meant him.
Mr. Shelby, I'm
All
sorry.
right, I'm sorry.
You know, I think it's sad what we see at the national and state level. And, you know, inflation right now is not just a local problem, it's not just a national problem, it's a global issue. And to think that the judge executive has any effect over inflation is a little bit ridiculous to me, but I will make the commitment to focus on every person in Nelson County. I don't care if you're registered Republican. I don't care if you're a registered Democrat. I want to represent the whole county because at the end of the day, Nelson County is a tight-knit community. We're family. I mean, I've been all across this county and I've seen and met a lot of people, and the connections that are formed and bonded throughout the whole county, it's amazing. I'm going to be a unifier, not a divider.
Russ, you have 1 minute.
I mean, I don't have no problem with what he said. I mean, I'm a unifier, I've been there my whole life. I mean, you wouldn't be in business for 50 years if you wasn't a unifier. I've had hundreds and hundreds of employees. I've worked with, I don't know how many masters for 17 years, so my record, I'm proud of my record. I'm not gonna attack Mr. Shelburne personally at all. I never have. The only thing I will get to is the record and what is of record, and that's what I will stick to. So, I talk to Democrats and Republicans all over for him to run from the Democrat Party and their policies. I think that's a big issue. I'm gonna bring it up, it's a big issue. And he's part of that, that's fine. So, you got inflation 40-year high again, $5 diesel, gas has dropped a little bit because they pulled it out of the reserves. Ask all these people, I see them every day. I don't know if everybody else does, when you go to the grocery store, it's a big deal. And it comes to county government. You can't blacktop as much, you can't put as much internet in, you can't do nearly as much because of inflation and the policies of the Democratic Party. And that's a fact.
My next question, we've been reading about, since the legislature was in the closing days of the session, that Nelson County could lose millions of dollars if the ad valorem tax on distilled spirits go away.
Is that for me or him?
I think this goes to Mr. Shelburne. What plans do you have, A, to cut expenses, B, to find additional revenue to keep Nelson County moving forward if those millions of dollars go away?
Do I get to have a rebuttal?
We only
to the
have
last one? Okay. You know, it's a significant issue. And, you know, I think that not much of the public really, they may or may not know about it, but it's going to be a significant loss in Nelson County. It's going to be over $8 million in revenue to the entire county that will be lost if we lose our distilled spirit tax. It's going to be about 1.2, 1.3 million that would come out of the fiscal court's budget. It'd be a little over 250-something thousand or so out of our sheriff's budget. We're hoping, and the hope is that we can, if this so happens, we're going to be able to reap property tax benefits off of it, but being as you can only reap 4% growth, and that distilled spirit tax revenue is separate from that, it's still going to put us in a pinch. And we're going to have to look at ways that we could possibly cut and maybe find additional streams of revenue if it comes down to that. Now, we have been encouraged by the legislature that they will let us, county governments and all of us folks that are dependent on that revenue to land on a cushion. Now, what that looks like at the end of the day, you'll have to ask the legislatures about that. But the most important thing is that we all get involved with this issue. It's in committee now. It may not make it out of committee. And worst case scenario, we're going to have to find a way to make the budget work.
Well, that being said, you said leave it up to legislatures, but I don't think we can do that. I've been working with Senator Jimmy Higgins for a long time about this issue, and judge of Marion County and Bull County, which is a big deal. Part of that deal is, see all these right here, these are what you call industrial revenue bonds that my opponent voted for. And there's about $9.2 million a year that we lose in industrial revenue bonds and property taxes because they pass those. Now, you gotta give incentives to bring in companies and so on. If you research those things, and they did in lieu of property taxes in those industrial revenue bonds, there's about 3 of them, and there's more to come. That's the only time I could study. The local school boards, I think 2 out of the last, I think it's 6 here, which is I don't know how many millions of dollars. Well, I was telling you millions of dollars since I've got plenty of time. 30-year bonds that you don't have to pay property taxes. I don't know if anybody there is not paying any property taxes. 30 years, that's a long time. 28 million, 15 million, 185 million, 110 million, 135 million. That's how much we've had some distilleries built, and we gotta have growth, there's no doubt about that. But is that a fair game to everybody? I've been in business for 40 years. I've never got a tax break from property taxes. And I bet you everybody here's pay property taxes. So there's a limit, you know, you gotta be a little more aggressive in what you do and be fair to the average citizens. And I want to bring all these distilleries and things in here too, but you can't give away the bank to do that. And now we're going to lose $8 million, probably $9 million in the distilled spirits tax. It's going to be over $1.5 million to fiscal court in the next 2 years. So they should have studied that before you passed all these industrial revenue bonds. There's one in there that's got an option that they can come out and get it, and 2 school options. The rest of them, we're going to lose.
All right. I'm going to follow up without a rebuttal. Let me do this, because neither candidate gave specific plans on what would happen in Nelson County if that tax goes away. And I'm asking for something specific, because that's probably, could be one of the most pressing issues that we have in the next 4 years if you lose that kind of revenue. So let's start again, and I'll give each of you 1 minute to try to answer the question directly. Mr. Shelton will go first.
You're always first.
Going back to what my opponent said.
Well, let's get on the topic.
Well, this ties together. This ties together. It ties with it. It's important that we have passed those industrial revenue bonds. And the important thing about it is the 500, 600, 800, how many hundreds of employees that are employed by the bourbon industry. We all know what bourbon is for Nelson County. Nelson County is ace in the hole at the end of the day. It provides a lot of good paying jobs. Now, before this legislation came up, we were getting distilled spirit tax out of every warehouse that was born. It's about 38 cents a barrel. It generated almost $1.3 million for fiscal court's budget. Now, Mr. Hudson says, nobody's giving him taxes on tax rebates on his property, and they're not on mine either. But guess what? You can't tax my barrel because I don't have a barrel full of whiskey. Now that's revenue that's gained that's not the same as our property taxes. So we get our 4% revenue growth through property taxes, but we get distilled spirit in a separate earmarked fund. So until the legislature has proposed this absurd bill to suddenly take this away from us, it was a good idea. And it's still, as long as we're providing jobs and we can get that distilled spirit tax, it's still a good idea. But they got themselves in a pinch because they're not going to be able to, they're either going to have to pay property taxes or the distilled spirit tax. At the end of the day, if it comes down to it and we have to do something to raise revenue, we've got different options we can go about. And none of them are pleasant, none of them are good to talk about, because all of us will have to pay for it at the end of the day, whether that is beginning to pay a separate tax on your EMS or...
All right, time's up.
I'll go on the record right now that I've heard people say, I don't know where it came from, I'm for the insurance tax, never said it in my life. My opponent keeps saying we got to come up with different revenue streams.
I never said that.
I think you just said that just now, and there's 1.2 million. You just got to live within your means and be frugal with your money, and we'll just have to make some cuts in different areas, and I think we can probably eliminate $1 million in some specialty projects or some waste. I don't have no doubt in my mind we can do it, but I've searched the budget and I'm pretty confident it can be done. But unlike my opponent, he wants to look at new revenue streams. No, I don't. I'm not going to raise health insurance tax or a property or the insurance tax that I've heard some people say. No, I'm not going to do that. And I'll tell you that straight up. So, and you take everybody in this room will pay a lower property tax, and if they didn't pass all these IRBs, you got to work with these distilleries, these industries. I did it for years, and bring them in. You got to give some different angles and be able to work with them and give them some breaks on some things. But when you get that kind of break, everybody in this room is paying more property taxes because of those IRBs. Everybody. Because your rate would have been lower because you can't take 4% of the growth, and you couldn't take the top compensating rate instead of the lower compensating rate, so you would have more revenue to even put more internet lines in. So I'm telling you, they made some mistakes. That did not happen when I was on there in 17 years. We did not do that, period. And so there's ways to cut that money, and when you're a business...
Time stop, excuse me.
I think I answered it, didn't I?
That's not for me to decide.
Well, you did.
All right. First question from the audience is from Jacob Ham. Please come up front to the podium.
If anybody that came in late wants to ask a question, please come up and sign. Let us know. Should be on.
My question for both of you gentlemen is, the issues affecting Nelson County are very important, but I'm also interested in character and leadership in regards to how you will govern the county. And so my question is, who is a role model or an example from your personal life, or somebody from, a president or a military leader, somebody that you look up to as a good leader? That is my question. And you can't say Jesus Christ.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to get. There was a lot of people that I looked up to. I think Ronald Reagan, when it comes to politics, I would say was one of the strongest leaders that I can remember. He was an older gentleman. I don't know if he's asking that question to just a role model, but I've been involved in St. Gary's my entire life and worked down there and still do a lot of work. I'm chairman of administration and been on every board that they've had. Like a lot of them throughout the county, and I think you do community service and you give back, and that's one of the things I'm going to do in fiscal court. I'm going to start having different private committees come in and church groups come in that people don't know about, 4-H clubs, the saddle horse clubs, the beekeepers clubs. That people have a passion in this community for different things, and I hear the homemakers ladies at the fair, they said people don't know anything about us, we can't get anybody. Well, nobody knows anything about you. So you got to come to fiscal court meetings and give them about 2 minutes to talk about what they're doing. You got to get more private enterprise involved in it.
Let's get back on the point. The question was one role model. Was it one role model?
Role model, and why? What kind of leadership skills you see in that role model that influence you?
Yeah, okay. I pretty much said it. Ronald Reagan.
Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate the question. I've got a host of folks I could really talk about right now. The one that's really jumping out at me, though, I really want to mention about 10 or 15, but the one that's really jumping out with me right now was my section sergeant over in Germany, Sergeant Diaz. Sergeant Diaz was he came from Mexico. He came to this country, got his citizenship, and served in the military. He was the section sergeant of our air defense artillery, our scout platoon. And this guy had such a positive attitude, such a positive leadership attitude. He gave the attitude that everybody wanted to come to work and work as hard as they could. He was one of those people that he had a magnetic vibration that really made you want to go the extra mile. He made you want to drive hard. You would run through a wall for this guy. He was a fantastic human being. He took me under his wing. I was young. I was probably 19 years old. He took me home to his family. They would cook for me. He was just a great person, a great serviceman, and a great leader.
Since that one would not require, or doesn't leave itself open for rebuttal, our next question will come from David Hilliard.
Okay. Yeah.
With the county, the way they do their contract for the county, why do you think privatizing the ambulance service would do good for the rural citizens? That goes to both of you.
Say it one more time, the first
Put
part.
your mic, could you put your mic up? There you go.
The way the county does their contracting for the county, do you think by privatizing the ambulance service, how will it affect rural citizens?
The ambulance service is owned and controlled by NC County Fiscal Court. You're talking about the ambulance service?
Right.
Okay. Back about, I don't know, it was in my first term as a magistrate, I think, the ambulance service was a privately held company, and it went on a for sale block, and we had, I think, the yellow cab, and there's some other private companies that were coming in looking at it, and then we were offered an opportunity to purchase it as a county and the local government. In this county, when you have a rural county like Nelson County, if you have a private company come in, ambulance loses about 1.5, 1.6 million a year in revenue versus what their fees are and what they charge. So the taxpayers, everybody out here is subsidizing ambulance service. We looked at this thing many times. If you wanted to make money in ambulance service, you could cut out the rural ambulance services and concentrate in the city of Arlington and make some money, and they're doing it in some other towns. And it's really a no-brainer in my opinion, because you got Chaplin, New Haven, Bloomfield, Holy Cross, New Hope, and all of them would be left out. There's this, when they call 911, they would be on a low priority list if it's a private, because they're making money. Their goal is they have to make money. Well, they couldn't have a private ambulance service. If they don't make money, they're going to be out of business. So, in no way, shape, or form will I ever agree to take an ambulance service and make it a private entity in the county with our proximity and way it's laid out today. There's no way. And I think there's some changes you can be made internally. And I already talked to Senator Higgin, and their Medicare and Medicaid paybacks with the state is what the big problem is with ambulance service. They don't get enough revenue. And I think there's probably some big changes, because since the Republican leadership's taken over the state, they've got more revenue coming in, they're more frugal with the money, and they can more options, they can get money back to the county. Sorry. Wish you hit a bell.
Aaron Jones is next.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Thank you for the question. That is really an important question, and, it really deals with the public safety of, the entire county. And this is one thing I will agree with Timmy on, is that it's important that this service stays within the county, because it's important that our rural members of this county get the same services they do right here in Bardstown. We've been able to expand, to have an ambulance station out in Bloomfield and New Haven, and it would be nice to get one of those in Boston, actually. It's interesting that he shares that same thought, mindset as me, because one thing we disagree on is snow removal. Now, my component...
Let's get back on this topic of the future question coming.
Although my opponent would like to privatize or sell off the snow removal, I think that too would be it'd be terrible for the county. It would definitely lose service, and it could possibly cost somebody their life.
Aaron Jones?
James?
Is that right?
Yeah, she has, Aaron.
They took our votes, and I don't have a good memory.
Yeah, Aaron.
Should any part of the county budget be shielded from cuts, and if so, which area do you feel would be most important?
You guys are starting to steal some of my questions.
That goes to Tim.
This
I went
goes to
first a while
Eric.
ago.
This one goes to Eric.
I don't care, it'll be everything.
Okay, let me see, the question is, should any department be shielded from cuts? There's no doubt that anything dealing with emergency service and public safety should be shielded from cuts the best they can. As a local government or any government, state, federal, I think the most important thing, the responsibility that we have is to provide safety and public safety for our citizens. I've been a proponent of that ever since I've been on fiscal court, and I plan to do so as your next judge executive.
I would agree with him on some of that. I think for sure, first, my top priority would be police. If you don't have police, you don't have law and order. If you don't have law and order, you don't have a community. And we're very fortunate to have a good sheriff's department and a good city police department in the city of Barstow. Unlike my opponent, I would definitely 100% support the police department and sheriff department. And I would make sure that we're not losing, I think he just announced yesterday, he lost another deputy. And you have to be very, very competitive. You can't get people to come out of the academy nowadays. Just had a young officer who got murdered about 2 months ago out in another county, 25 years old. Who in the world wants to be a police officer in today's world? I wouldn't do it for no amount of money. And I got to commend these people for doing that. My opponent would not stand up and make a motion or suggest to give these deputies more money. And they got to provide for their families, especially inflation anxieties. The state police seen that problem and they gave them a $15,000 raise because they couldn't retain anybody. The city police of Barstow gave most of the officers a $10,000 raise, and our sheriff asked for a $2 to $3 raise, and they got a 7%. And then when he passed the budget, there's 5 other employees in other departments that got a significant increase in wages. Maybe they deserve it. I'm not criticizing any departments, but it never was publicized. And then when the county judge came out and admitted 4 of them was underpaid, they still today haven't gave those employees enough money to keep up with the competition. And they're losing deputies right and left. So the police is number one, and all the other emergency services right behind it. That's my direct answer.
All right, since that was a question and we're not rebutting those, I do have 2 questions before we go back that go along with this. Each of you have served as a magistrate, and we keep talking about raises for sheriff's department. What did you do, and what are you doing, and Tim, what did you do as a magistrate other than granting normal pay raises to law enforcement, that raises that came in with the budget to raise salaries for the sheriff's department? What have you done specifically during that time?
Well, I'll tell you real quick what we done. When I was on the fiscal court, we merged what was the Nelson County Police Department with the sheriff's budget and saved all that overhead when you only have one chief at that point, one sheriff. And you saved at that time probably $67,000, and today it will be $110,000. That's one real quick answer. Then you got another chief under him. So when we merged those departments, it's been a no-brainer. It's the best thing ever happened in this county. Then when Sheriff Jimmy Riley was on there, he came to me and they were driving them old raggedy cars up and down the road and had about $400,000 on them. And then you couldn't hardly, definitely wasn't no high-speed chasing back then. And he came to me and I had him propose a budget, and we put in a plan with it, and they was getting mileage, and we actually proved that we saved money by buying the police cars instead of paying the mileage to them. And that way we did all the use of all our mechanics and everything else. So that's 2 big topics right there, Dennis. And we didn't have that blackout when I was in fiscal court. Did you ever see back in the time that the magistrates and the judge get into it, and the sheriff at an open fiscal court meeting and get in a big argument right there in the fiscal court meetings? Never in my time. It didn't happen. It should never happen. It's a blackout in the community.
All right, let me follow up, because my question was, and you saved money, what did you guys, this is going to go back to Eric in just a moment, and again to the public, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I'm trying to pin down and get specific answers. But you saved money, but did any of the money that you brought that out, what did you do to gain additional pay for people in that department?
You'd have to go back and talk to all the deputies and the sheriffs that were back in that time, because apparently they were satisfied because they didn't come to the fiscal court meetings and argue and beg for raises. That didn't happen during that time, so I feel like you say what we did is like some other departments when we got elected that were underpaid versus other counties, and we gave them $1 raise per year or $2 a raise per year above their inflation. I mean, I can go to the landfill, go to the road department, go back to the sheriffs. We did increase their wages because they gotta make a living like anybody else. And I can't specifically tell you what year it was, but we didn't have that problem. We did have about, I don't know, 15 years ago, there was a little problems retaining officers, and we came in and put in some extra raises for them. You just gotta fix it. You gotta be able to work with it.
Stop. Okay, she raised it.
You go back, look at okay, I'm just saying, you go back and look at years, I don't know what years it was.
All right, once she raises the
I'm
fifth,
sorry,
we have to
okay.
stop. Mr. Shelburne, since you have been a magistrate, other than when the judge proposes a budget, now I tell you, Nelson County, it's a lot different than it was over home. When I was on the city council, the mayor, and we would fight over the budget and everything. To see here, everybody's pretty good about it. Y'all are a lot nicer. What have y'all done, what have you done as a magistrate to gain more money for the police department other than when the judge hands you a budget and everybody gets a 3% raise and we vote for it?
That's a good question. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to try to clear the record on that, because my opponent has just sat there and spewed the biggest bunch of lies I've ever heard in my entire life. I have supported the police department in every way I can. To paint me in a box that I'm not pro-police is putting me somewhere I do not belong. Since 2017, the sheriff's budget has increased. It was about $1.2 million in 2017. It is at almost $1.6 million at this time. As a magistrate, I voted for every pay increase. I voted for every vehicle. They get 2 vehicles a year. We pay for 17 deputies. We pay for their uniforms throughout. We pay for all the retirement on the sheriff's department's employees. This year, we got able to go above and beyond somewhat. We got to give a 7% raise, which I don't think has ever been given to anyone at the sheriff's department throughout the years and even back in the day. So to say that we haven't tried is wrong. At that 7% raise equals about $1.75 to the lowest road deputy on the road. Also,
Rebuttal on this one.
We'll get a rebuttal. But that's what they would stay on.
No, that was on mine, because, I mean, action, you know, what always was raised, action speaks louder than words. 7% raise because,
No. Okay, so that question went to Tim Hutchins
Okay,
first,
so when,
and then it went to Eric.
he gets 1 minute.
Eric gets 1 minute?
No.
no, I got a minute.
He gets a minute.
It was the same question to both of them, wasn't it?
He will get to the
Same thing, I don't care if he runs about, I'm just telling you the facts. He got 7% raise because you got a 7% raise, and the state employees got a 7% raise, all elected officials, and that's the guideline you use, and that's fine. Inflation is a 40-year high, that's why they got the 7% raise. I mean, it's just, anybody can do math and figure that out. But they didn't go above and beyond, because you gotta look at the surrounding counties around Jefferson County. They're all paying more money, and they're underpaid, and you haven't went to bat for them. That's just a fact. And when you voted for the budget, you gave 5 other employees in other departments, and the judge came out and said he admitted they was wrong. There was 4 deputies left out. It's a public record. You voted for the budget, and you didn't go back and try to change it and give those other deputies any raises, and we lost 2 employees since then, I think. And that's just the way. That was the way. That wasn't a fist.
Is that stop?
Yeah, that was the way.
That was a fist. That wasn't a fist.
All right, excuse me.
So, I mean, just part of the inflation has caused that. I mean, that's why you gotta keep on, you go back to that budget, you're talking about the increase in budget, that's caused inflation's out of hand. I was hoping you could do less with it. Less in his, budget. It'd be nice if you could lower it a little bit, but you can't do it because your party's inflation's out of control. And, you haven't supported the sheriffs and talked to the deputies and the sheriff and asked them questions. I've asked them all questions. They can't stop that.
That is a stop.
Yeah.
Next question will come from Danny Reed.
I don't get to rebut that?
No, we just get 1 rebuttal.
I didn't get to rebut, he rebutted me. I just got to answer the question.
Are you answering?
I don't get to
He
rebut.
started first.
He's,
Wait, 1, 2, 3.
I'm going to react now.
Mr. Reed.
During this election, we've seen you guys at a lot of the events and everything, but after this election is over and everything, moving forward, how accessible will you guys be during fiscal court meetings for the public to ask questions and get answers?
You want me to go first, Is? You?
I get to it.
I don't know.
That's a good question, Danny. You know, I think it's important that every voice is heard. And I believe that we should all be able to express ourselves in fiscal court. Fiscal court did adopt a sign-in sheet like they do in a lot of local government places. I do believe that everyone's voice should be heard. I do believe there should be structure to it. I plan on having just like you're doing right here, a sign-up sheet. You can come speak for so many minutes. I think that's a great idea. I don't have a problem with that at all. You know, it's good for local government. It's good to hear people's voices, and it's good to represent everyone there. So as long as it's structured and it doesn't become, you know, out of control, that's what we're supposed to do as a local government and as a state government and as a federal government. It's important.
Again, I hate to throw darts at my opponent, but since he's been on there, they've closed the meetings to public comment. And my wife keeps telling me, don't bring up the 17-year magistrate, but the 17 years I was on there, we had public comment at every meeting. Never, ever did we cut out public comment. And when the taxpayers are paying for the fiscal court's salaries and everything else that's going on, at the end of the day, you're the boss, we're working for you. So public comment would definitely be heard, and if the meeting gets out of hand, you got to, just like Mr. Sheriff over here, like he had to do a couple of times when you and somebody else got into it, they had to calm the meeting down. It's a shame it goes that far, but you got a sheriff in the room for that reason. And that's probably one of the reasons they shut down the public comment, because the episode that happened that day when you was in the courtroom. And it's a shame it went that far, but it's a fact. I'm not throwing any darts, I'm telling you facts. Go look at the videotapes.
Stop, please. The next question will come from Kenny Downs.
How come I don't get to rebut?
Thank you.
Don't I get to rebut?
My question's for Eric, and maybe Tim would be, sir. Earlier in your opening statement, you said that you had a military background. I think you said you served in Desert Storm and appreciate your service. How do you think being in the military will help you be a better judge executive and Tim served in this thing?
You want that?
What? Tim will answer.
You
answer first.
want me to go first? Well, I never served in the military service, and I commend my opponent for that, anybody that's done it. And if I was, I guess, called up and asked to serve, I'd be the first one around on the front line. But I've always supported the military and the veterans. You know, there's all kinds of things going out there. You see that you try to donate and give to the people that's, you know, you got the legs thrown off, and just anybody keeps up with things, it is sad. And our president pulled out of Afghanistan and left all the American citizens over there abandoned, and one of our allies, and just left them and pretty much said goodbye, you know. So I would hope that the military gets a little bit more strict in their policies and leadership. And
I'll let you back to county government.
And I think, well, I think it all affects county government. I think elections have consequences, Dennis, so I think it all trickles down. You may disagree, but I think so. In the policies, and it affects people everywhere, because you have to support your military, and we need a strong military. But again, I commend him for that. I never did serve, but I do support veterans and have for my whole life.
Thank you for the question, Kenny. When I was 17 years old, and I was just graduating high school, we were about to go to war with the third largest army in the world. Saddam Hussein had moved in and took Kuwait. and I felt that it was my duty and my responsibility to answer that call. I signed up at 17 years old. I had to get my parents to sign a release where I could join. They had the third largest army in the world, some of the top equipment that Russia had. It was not a pleasant thought. Didn't know if I was coming back home. But it taught me service. It taught me respect. It taught me chain of command issues. I think that service part of it, fighting hard for my country, is going to let me open the door for me to fight hard as your next Nelson County Judge Executive.
Stop, please. Next question will come from Richard Harden.
Eric, good to see you guys.
A little closer.
A little closer to your mic, please.
The question I had for you is something that's become dear to my heart over the last few years that my wife and I have been getting involved in. I know you've been talking about taxes, sheriffs and everything, but a problem that we have is homeless people. And we've been working closely with Wayside in Louisville with families and people who's addicted to drugs and alcohol and everything, and trying to restore them. And you say, well, government has no business in that. I don't agree with that, because the city of Louisville, their government stepped up and really they've been a partner with Wayside and helping them. I would like to know, I know Tim, I know him well, and I know he's been big in charities and stuff. But Mr. Shelby and Tim both, what would you do to help for people go to Kroger? You don't see them sleeping in front of Kroger, or they got tent cities behind Kroger. And I'm talking about in Nelson County, what we can do to help better the homeless community.
Eric. That's an excellent question, Richard, and that's dear to my heart. You know, we have some resources here in the county. It's not very big, it's not very expansive. The fact of the matter is, a lot of these folks that are homeless, they have some real drug addiction problems, they have some mental health issues. They don't choose to be in that environment. Maybe some do, but I don't think it's a very large majority of it. I've talked to Bridget Wilson, who works with Bethany Haven, and I've looked at their women's shelter, and I've looked at the men's shelter that we have here in Bardstown, and it's really not that big, and it would never serve all the homeless people we have in our community. I'm really proud to say that I'm actively involved right now trying to bring back a career resource center to Nelson County. And when we lost that, we lost a really good service for Nelson County. And that doesn't include your unemployment. That includes getting you back on your feet, training you for jobs, finding help to fill positions for future factories, or finding out trade skills. It's going to be a one-stop shop. Bethany Haven, I'm hoping, will be able to share the same building to where we can have some counseling for these folks, or maybe we can find some job opportunities for them and get them in the right spot where they can get their needs. It's important, guys. I mean, it's so easy to look down upon somebody sometimes, but you never know till you're walking in their shoes. And I'm going to tell you, I guarantee you there's somebody in this audience, and I'm one of them, that has somebody that cannot function in society, and they cannot, and they're typically homeless. They're at least couch to couch, and they're one step closer to being out there underneath that bridge in that tent city. So, I'm thankful to try to be able to work hard on this project to try to meet those needs. It's important. Thank you for that.
I worked with Treasurer Davidson at Bethany Haven, and she's a personal friend of mine also, but it's not all the drugs. It's a lot of, especially on the women's side of it, abuse, and no places to go, and they can't get out. And, when you see some of those, you don't realize until they tell you some of these stories. I think you cannot start letting the homeless people start sleeping on the streets and in front of your public places and with the tourists and running the business and all that. You got to stop that before it gets started. And I think Bethany Haven has done a great job. I'm gonna tell you, with what she has done, you would see many more people out on the streets. And I've worked with her. We just had a fundraiser. She had a golf rally, and we have to raise money. And the drug abuse is a separate issue, sort of, but it does have part of that. The Isaiah House is doing a good job up in Chaplin, and there's got a display programs. So.
The next question will come from Andrea Hopper.
Is that right? What, 2 minutes?
For the question, not for the rebuttal.
No, mine was a question. I wasn't no rebuttal.
No, we're not going to rebut, I know.
No, I'm saying she cut me off in 1 minute. I didn't rebut it. That was just a question.
You got 1 minute?
Yeah, I've got a minute left.
Okay.
That's what I thought. My clock wasn't working here. But, yeah, that was, because he could talk all day long. And, so go back to Isaiah House, and they got these programs. So when you go back to these schools, Madison County schools, large towns, and they're trying to work, I think it's got a little state grant, getting these, high schoolers in trade schools versus going to college. There's a lot of them in college materials. So a lot of it goes right back to education. I mean, we can't just send them up there and run through 4 years of high school and send them off to college and act like they're going to be the next movie star. It don't work. It's a proven fact. So they're trying to get into trade school programs and do more of that, and that'll help a whole lot of it. Going back to the same old story where you got the inflation out of control. People can't afford to buy food. They've already talked about they're not going to be able to afford electricity this winter. They're going to have to cut their temperatures down. They're going to turn their thermostats down. They could get fined.
Now stop. Now stop.
There's a lot of things.
Now stop. Okay.
She didn't give me that one.
She gave it up. All right, next question is Hopper, please.
Okay.
All right, on 2 minutes, in rebuttal is 1.
Right, so it goes back to
No,
Eric.
on audience questions, we're just doing, letting them both answer with no rebuttal.
But this was.
So she's going to ask and we'll get 2 minutes.
Gotcha.
You're good. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, hello, good evening. My question, well, it's not really a question, more of a statement at first, and then a question. This country was founded on biblical morals, biblical principles. I want to know who is going to follow God in their leadership, and I want to know who is going to be a servant of the people and not the people serving you.
You know, I thought about that coming in, and because on my platform it says pledge allegiance and prayer before official court meetings. I don't know if you've seen it, but it says it on the platform. So when I paid for something today, and I seen right on the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." And they say, well, you got to separate politics from church. So, you know, you got God on there, which is church, and you got a dollar bill. So, I mean, you know, it's kind of mixed, I think. So, you know, the country is founded on a Christian faith, and I just think it needs to be part of it. You know, I've already talked to some individuals in Frankfurt about putting the 10 Commandments in the fiscal courtroom. He said that probably would get challenged, but I've been challenged a lot in my life, and, you know, I may do it just to see if we get challenged. So you got to have leaders instead of followers, and like you said, you got to have leadership to do that. And I think just having just a little simple prayer in court would help that, and then have other people come in, like I said earlier, and have meetings and talk about their churches or their groups or anything that they're passionate about in this community. Because, you know, fiscal court meetings, I don't know if you've been there, they last about, he gets paid a lot of money for a 27-minute fiscal court meeting. You know, I was up there at least last an hour, you know, that's just a joke. But anyway, there was a lot of time they give them up there, and if they wanted to open it up and have a 3 or 4 minute prayer, I think it's a good time to do it. But I think, you know, I'm not going to question his faith. I don't know anything about his faith that much. I've heard him talk about it some, and I'm sure he's a good, strong religious, and, you know, I'm a strong Catholic at St. Gregory's and support a lot of churches throughout the community. So, I mean, I know where I stand, and, you know, let him answer.
That's an excellent question, Andrea. I appreciate it. You know, before I even decided to run for this race, I got into it prayerfully. I prayed hard about it. God didn't give me an answer right offhand, and I was uncertain about what to do. I had 3 choices that I was contemplating. I was contemplating running again for magistrate, I was concerned about who was going to be the next judge executive to lead this county forward, and I've contemplated focusing on my work as a lineman. When I felt like God spoke to me, and when I heard that, take my yoke, I knew at that point, that voice, that was meant for me to follow through and to do exactly what I'm doing right now. I knew this was going to be a difficult journey, but I know that if I take his yoke, that he'll pull me through it. And once I get the opportunity to serve, I'm going to continue to take his yoke. Because every decision I make, everything I have, everything I'm blessed with comes from God. He's been merciful to me. And, you know, I just ask that people reflect on, you will know them by their fruit. And I just hope that I can honor and glorify him through whatever I do. And if I get that opportunity to serve, I'm going to have to lean on him each and every moment, because it's not going to be an easy road to hoe.
Next question, Keisha Copeland.
Good evening. And, well, you pretty much answered some of my questions, and they asked some of my questions. So thank you so much for entering the race. It's good to see that we have people that want to serve. I think I didn't hear what I wanted to hear about the sheriff's station. And I want you to be more definitive about those answers. The question that I'm asking is, what are you going to do? What is the resolution to our sheriff's station? And not only that, how are you going to do this? Because when I was on city council and we were speaking about different areas that we, you know, taxes and things of that nature, we had to do comparisons with other cities like ours. We had to see you know, what was happening versus their city and our city, the numbers, the percentages, and things of that nature. So I think it's important that, you know, we have a well and alive sheriff's station, that we have the best people that are coming to our town to work, but we're also retaining our people that are there and not going to the city police because they're getting a raise. So what is the resolution to this problem that we have? Thank you.
Eric, before you start, Janet Amos will have the next question. If she could move down closer to the microphone, please, or to the podium. Eric, go ahead.
That's a good question as well. I appreciate that one being asked, because that's going to allow me to clear the air just a little bit more of all the smoke and mirrors my opponent keeps throwing at me. You know, I've been in some serious conversations with Chief Crescent. You know, they have, historically, when I worked at the city, the county paid more than the city did. Well, guess what? The city employees were jumping over to the county, right? So now, through the leadership of Chief Crescent, they have, since 2014, this has been a process that's been going on since 2014. What they've done to increase the budget in the police department without impacting taxpayers is they hired more retired police officers. And when you hire those police officers, those retired police officers, you don't have to pay their retirement or their insurance. And that equals about 50 cents to every dollar. That is significant. So what they've done is they've hired those retired police officers back. They broke that money back into their payroll and back into, you know, and a structured pay system. And a structured pay system is something that I've been striving for since I got in. When I worked as a lineman, it was the same as it is here at the sheriff's department. They hire in about $27 an hour now, and guess what? If you've been here 16 years, he's right underneath of you besides what they're getting paid. And my opinion, what they need is to have at least a 5-year incentive raise, or every 5-year increment, they should have a step-up pay that would separate them, a retention raise. So the fact that he tries to paint me like I'm against the police department is a little bit insulting, I'll tell you. But you know what? I couldn't expect anything less from him. But that's my plan. My plan is to work in a way in which we can move forward, where calm heads can work together.
Stop, please. Stop, please.
And retain
Stop, please.
all the
Stop, please.
sheriffs.
You don't expect anything less. I mean, I guess he's questioning my character, but that's fine. I feel like I've built my character and I live on my record. I'm proud of my record, 63 years old in this community. And if you want to question it, that's fine. We'll find out election day. And you was talking about leadership. I guess when you was talking about the chief's leadership, apparently he was questioning Raymond's leadership, that he's not doing something right. You was really praising our leadership without even suggesting Raymond's done anything. I guess that's the way I took the answer that you gave. So my answer to that question is I think we got a good sheriff that's made a lot of internal changes, and we've got a very good relationship with the sheriff department. And I think, black, white, or anything, he's done a great job. There's a big difference in city police and the sheriff department. I don't know if y'all realize that. They've got to serve papers. There's tons of differences in two police departments. And then you got about 460 square miles to cover. A little bit different than around the city of Barstown. And I'm not discrediting the city of Barstown. She just put out a report in there, and shared, I don't know if it's a public report, that their crime is down in the city, and they've done a good job in the city. But it's a whole lot different, and I'm not a professional law person, but it don't take genius to figure that out. So I'm not questioning Raymond's leadership at all. We didn't have that problem when I was a magistrate on the physical court, and the money is in the budget. The judge admitted publicly there's 4 police officers underpaid. My opponent didn't do anything to correct that, didn't even make a suggestion in physical court, did not make a motion. That's a fact. 7% raise was good, but because the rate of inflation was why. I was hoping they only got 1% raise, because then they go to the store and maybe buy a pound of bologna for $1 instead of $4. So, talk is cheap. I mean, look at the actions, look at the public.
Stop, please, stop, please, stop, please, stop, please. Hey, guys, real quick, when she raises the fizz,
I didn't
please
see her.
stop.
I'm sorry, I didn't see her.
Well, if you saw her wave, please
I didn't see her
be
wave.
cognizant of what she's doing, please.
Janet Amos.
She needs a bail.
Next up is Nick Chipperon.
Hello.
Nick Chipperon.
I just want to know, what do you intend to do about animal control problem?
Is that it?
Yeah, especially cats, a terrible problem. Over and over, increase the fines.
Tim.
Okay. The Animal Control Center out there, that we've got a new deputy animal control officer that's taking a good strong hold of that problem. There's several issues with that division, because you got the Humane Society, they're trying to do more spading and all the control of the cats and dogs. All volunteers, very few people get paid out there. Very, very few. They do a tremendous amount of work with very few dollars in the Humane Society. When you go to the animal control side of it, I said it publicly, I think there's needs some major changes in the top side of it. I mean, you got the dog warden, the deputy dog warden wants to, he hadn't even had proper training yet. He just got hired us, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, hadn't even been through the proper training yet, so. And you specifically was talking about cats. I had 5 cats dropped off at my house about 4 weeks ago. Matter of fact, and my grandkids fell in love with them. So here you go. What do you do? So I went out there, and this little girl out there has been on me. So we got 3 of them out there, and I still got 2. And anyway, so I don't know where you live at, what kind of problem it is. I think it's probably a little bit more of a stronger problem in the city limits, what I'm hearing, talking to people, and you get out in the country, it's a little bit less. But I think they're attempting. They just got a new girl took over the board over there, and I was at the meeting with them about 2 weeks ago. And prior to that, in the top side, I think they need more help on the bottom side, so they can take care of this. And some people think it's a waste of money. I hear that in the county, and the city thinks it's a big thing. You got two big differences of opinions. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of animals out in the community, and it's an issue, and I agree with you, but I can't do anything sitting here. I gotta get elected before I can make the changes.
Well, that's why I'm here. I live in Stumpton. I've
Yeah.
lived there 15 years.
Right, well, you vote for the right person.
Nick? Nick?
No, wait a minute, he
Oh,
got.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric. I apologize.
It's pet population control is a difficult subject to address because at one point you're policing them up and then the next point you got one of the neighbors calling in and said they took my cats. And I've had this addressed in my district before. The thing about it is we got the ones that are overpopulated, they have a program. And right now what it is they bring these cats in, and what they do is they're trying to disperse them. They call them barn cats. So they bring them in and they fix them. And then they turn them into farm cats, and they let them go up into people that want them in their barns and such. It's a good program. It's a difficult road to navigate, but those people at the Humane Society really take their jobs very seriously, and they try really hard to be a no-kill shelter. And of course, that's nearly impossible. You'll never really get to that because not a lot. Some folks just don't spay and neuter their animals, and sometimes they get a little wild. And you'll have coveys of them around. But the main goal is to have a high live release program. And if you're having trouble specifically in your neighborhood, you can call up there to the Humane Society, and they'll do a catch on them, and they'll bring them in, spay or neuter them if they can be redistributed back through a program that an adoption program. If not, they have to process them some other way. They do have something. It's probably not as extensive as I would just recommend you call up there and talk to them because they really take their job very seriously.
I've done that, and they put traps out, and they caught a whole bunch of them, but still, they release, the owners come and get them, then they have to catch them again. That's why I said there needs to be a fine total.
Nick Chipperon.
How you guys doing? I've spoken to both of you throughout the campaign. This is a real difficult question, but and you covered a lot of things this evening, but being involved in political races is difficult for everybody, as well as your families, and especially with the political climate. But this is I'd say it's a difficult question, but it depends. It could be an easy question. And Eric, I want to start with you. It's just basically, what's the reason that you've entered this race? So, basically, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but why do you all want to be the next county judge? How's that?
That's great, Nick. Thank you for that. And I talked about it a little bit before. I was concerned about the next person that was going to move our county forward. The fact of the matter is, folks, this is the first time we're going to have a different judge executive in 30 years. And like or dislike the last one, there was an even keel that was there. I know that I've served under different types of leadership, and I was concerned what kind of leadership would take over, because you can really upset the apple cart at the local level. And it not only just affects the families that are working there, and it not only just affects the staff and their families, it affects everyone in the community as well. I actually, I got into this prayerfully, like I've spoken about before. I felt led to come to this door, and if I get pulled through it, then, that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do, is be led. But it's important, the reason. It's not what they're doing, but why they're doing it. So I know what you're getting at. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I want to be able to unify this county under Nelson County. When I see the division that's going throughout the country, and I don't identify as a Democrat or Republican so much as I do as just an American citizen. I think it's unfortunate that we have a two-party system. Where's my team, your team? It should be who Nick Chipperon is. Why should I vote for Nick Chipperon? And that's where I'd like to see here at this county level. I think things are so dysfunctional in Washington and state level because of those reasons. It's important that we have a leader that can pull people together and work specifically for each individual that works here or lives here in this county.
Nick, I think, excuse me, I think it's, when you get into doing public service and you feel like you've done a good job and you get involved in your community, your church, your school, and, you know, that's where I started that young. Started coaching my children and I was on St. Gregory's and then it led on, you know, helping the Boy Scouts and then you got the Knights of Columbus and just different groups and they want to help you to raise money and, you know, I've been on, I don't know how many committees, raised millions of dollars for different organizations. So you just, you know, I think it's just something that some people like doing it, some people don't like it. And it's not for everybody, that's for sure. I think I've got a proven record, and I've been a businessman all my life. Like I told you, you know, developments and housing and retail, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of employees. You know, I was successful in winning magistrate. I think I won re-election 4 times. And, you know, I feel like I'm definitely more qualified because of my experience and, you know, my background, and I just feel like I can do a better job at it, and I like doing it. And some people can't stand it. You know, people ask me all the time, why in the world you want to do this? You know, you get thrown darts at you. And I said, well, my wife paid me to do it. I said, I don't know why I did it, but anyway, but she says I didn't tell the truth. But you know, and I commend my opponent for doing it, because, you know, even as a magistrate, it's not easy. It's a tough job, and you got to protect the taxpayers' money, but you got to be a leader. You can't be a follower. You got to lead by example and make sure things happen. And you know, one thing you got to realize: if you do put a policy in, I've said this many times, you put a policy in place, and you see in just a few months or a year or so it's not working. Don't act like you're afraid. Change it and admit it. Like you said, the Washington people don't do. No, they won't admit it. No, we made a mistake. Made a mistake. Fix it.
All right. Emma Shelburne.
Okay, I would like to know what you would do for the youth, for the community.
You know, that's pretty broad. You said the youth, there's been a movement, you know, I was on the court, there's a strong movement about putting an indoor pool center in. And, no, they never really got, I guess, off the ground. They tried, and I actually worked against it when they wanted to bring the YMCA in, because I think it's top heavy and there's too many high-paid people in the YMCA side of it for this size of this community. A lot of money is going to salaries. And I didn't agree with that. It never actually came to a vote, but I don't think that's the way we need to go. I think there's a big mix. Again, when you get rural residents and city residents, a lot of the people out in the rural areas and farmers say, well, what the heck, we don't need an indoor pool, you know, I can jump in the cow trough or whatever. So, it's just, so trying to bring those people together and realize that we need some things for the youth, you know, like you said, I know you know everybody, the pool, the cinemas and the bowling center and the skate rings all closed. I do know that the mayor of Bardstown, Dick Heaton, has been working with the plan, and they've used some money, and they're trying to come up with a plan. And one of my big things, I think, is you need to have more, I guess you say, you know, gyms, pool tables, ping pong tables, splash parks, and other things for young kids and teenagers to do other than just indoor pool. Indoor pool, I think, would be good, but can we pay for it? If you, I've checked many counties, and if you had a bill today and paid for it, you would still probably lose money, this operating cost, after it's paid for. You're talking about 10 to 15, maybe $20 million expense. But you gotta get your private people involved, schools involved, and governments involved to make it happen. I think you have the right leadership, it can happen. I will not raise any taxes on these people with inflation like it is to put an indoor pool in. It will not happen.
That's another good question, and I guess that answers why we don't have a why today. But at any rate, I think that with the right leadership, he's right, we can get this done. I've had the opportunity to actually look at other counties and how they're getting this done. I got to meet with Judge Mosley down in Mercer County and tour their aquatic facility down there, and they're getting ready to build another splash park. And now that we've seen all of our places for our youth to do, we just lost our movie cinema, we've lost our bowling alley, we've lost our skating rink. It's all things that the youth could do to gather together and get out of the house, and now we see Springfield's getting a splash park. And I really feel like Nelson County deserves that. And I think we can get it, and I think we can do it without having a major impact on Nelson County. I've learned about grants that start the splash park would be a low-cost investment. It was interesting this summer. I got to see Bardstown Fire go up, and they took their ladder trucks and made a splash park right there at the rec center. I've never seen so many young families and kids playing. They handed out popsicles. It was great. To not have something like that here for our county residents is a travesty, and it should have been done a long time ago. That can's been kicked down the road. I do think that we can get together and with some public-private partnerships and partner with probably Bardstown and some private entities as well to bring those kind of facilities here that people are wanting. I think it's pertinent that we do that. Everywhere I go throughout the county, I hear the same thing, and I've talked to a lot of folks. We got to get it done. And when you're right, Tim, with the right leadership, we can get that done. I feel like I'm the man to do that.
All right, so I'm a little bit disappointed you didn't say you came to Lebanon to see our aquatic center. Okay. It was a little expensive when we built it, but it's still operating. Okay, next question, and before I fall asleep, I'm gonna start asking some. Teresa Stein, please.
Okay. Chris? Oh, she's got it there. She is. Hi.
Hello there. I have kind of a two-part question, I guess. I'm a little nervous. I don't do politics, but my sister made me. But anyway, I'm real concerned about why in the world would it even be considered, and at what level is this being considered, the not taxing the bourbon barrels?
Ma'am, can you hold your mic up? They can't hear nothing out of that mouth about her.
So I'm worried about
There you
the
go.
distilleries getting more tax breaks because they don't need a tax break. They make billions and billions of dollars, and they're not giving anything back to the community personally, or they're not being encouraged to, because we have nothing for our children anymore. We have bourbon, which is going to bring more crime eventually. It's going to be more crime. We had so many people downtown for the Bourbon Festival, which they divided up. The community on one side, don't let the locals hang with the tourists, which they charged $150 to $400 for a ticket, which they sold out. So the bourbon companies are doing great. And I personally am profiting off the bourbon companies because I have an Airbnb on the Bourbon Trail. But bourbon is a very lethal drug that's going to be putting some
And your question is?
concerns in our community. Why? My biggest concern is, why aren't they being accountable to put back into our community? Because they easily can, and they're not. And they're polluting our air. And why, and who's come up with the idea that they need another discount on taxes?
I'm not sure, guys, but I don't know the way that question is framed. That
Why are they getting a discount on taxes again, or being considered getting another discount on taxes, where they're not gonna have to pay federal tax?
But that's a state issue as to whether or not they get that kind of tax break. And, oh, you talking about the ad valorem tax on the barrels? Right, that's gonna be a state issue.
So are we gonna be able to do anything about that, or do they just get to bully the community?
Guys, if you want to stick around after they're done, I'll explain the tax barrel.
Thank you. I wanna know if we do anything about it, or if we get bullied by
Hey, Ryan,
distilleries.
read the Lebanon Enterprise up and bring it
And they're
back.
also in our community, on my property, you have to, at least every year, spray it off because of the burden.
All right, ma'am, excuse me, I think we need, this is not county related.
Okay, well, county
I know what you're
related, the
getting to.
mold on the
All right,
houses
ma'am.
and in our lungs is.
Ma'am. Please, we're trying to stick to the guidelines that they agreed to, and I think we're getting into an issue that they have no control over. As court member,
It's up to you.
well, I think that the way it was set up is that I will monitor the questions. You guys agreed to let me do that, and I think that one,
So the
when we're talking about tax breaks, they have nothing to do with that.
So we have no
When we
control over
have
what
mold,
distilleries.
they have nothing to do with that. Well, not as far as the ad valorem tax, so we're gonna
Do
move
we have any
ahead.
control?
We're gonna move, ma'am, we're gonna move on.
The answer to your question,
Whoa, hang on, Raymond, let us finish.
you guys are saying that you're not gonna answer the question. I'm gonna answer it.
No, this is a judge debate.
Yeah, any
That's,
control.
all right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Our next question will come from Michael
Do
Wheatley.
we have any control over
We're moving on.
them being responsible
All right.
for our air quality because they're putting a fungus on
Now, this is not an issue this is not an issue. And I'm gonna ask you to give the floor to this gentleman and go by the guidelines that we set up in the beginning.
Just call him, I'll talk to you one day.
You know, you.
All right, we're not gonna answer. You guys set the guidelines.
I understand, go
You
ahead.
guys had set the guidelines and you asked me to monitor, and we're gonna go to Michael Wheatley, please.
Got a question for both of you. My name is Michael Weekly. I've been living in this county since 1987. I hear Mr. Hutchins talking about running sewer lines out into the county. What happens in that situation is when the force main is going out into the county, the Bardstown has a tendency to annex it. Now, is that what we're going to do in the future? Run sewer lines out, and then the city is going to annex it? That's a question for actually both of you.
I think that,
Do y'all see that as a county issue?
yeah, because it affected him. I think you actually got into a lawsuit with the city over it, didn't you, Timmy?
I'll let you answer the question.
Well, I mean, right now, yeah, if you get run sewer line out there, you have to sign an annexation agreement. And that gives them the opportunity to come in and actually annex those
If
areas.
that's the case, then this is not a question of anything you guys can do anything about.
It was brought up previously by Mr. Hutchins that we need to run force mains out into the county. Now, my thing is, if they in fact do that, will they?
But is this an issue that you had nothing to do with sewer lines?
Yeah, I think we could. I'll agree, whatever he wants to.
But I mean, if there's a sewer line running to the county, if they agree to be annexed, that's a city issue.
No, there's sewer.
What can fiscal court do about that?
Well, I think that's the problem we had
Gotta ask the
before.
question.
You know, when you developed out here, that's exactly what happened. You had to sign an annexation agreement when you got that sewer line run, correct?
Then the county has nothing to, this,
They
where
don't.
does county government fit into this?
Well,
There's a tool on.
I mean,
You all said county government, not me.
that's all true. I mean, that's about the time he called the police out there.
All right, well, all right, then let's move on. I mean, you guys set the guidelines.
He called
It's
the
got something to do
police
with
out
the county if
there.
you want to answer. I mean, a lot of places in the county that need sewer.
Well, but
Out there in his area, for sure. I'll tell you.
But the city is the one with the sewer plant.
Not 100% accurate, though. I mean, I can answer if you want, if you don't, move on.
I'm gonna bypass that one.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. Let me go to over here. We're even number wise, I think. You all brought up recreation. And the young lady asked a question. In Marion County, fiscal court is committing $4.5 million, and they're going to put in a multi-purpose building with basketball courts, soccer, and other things, not only for the youth, so they don't have to go out and play, and there's more opportunity for them. Would you support something like that? And if we talk about being a leader, would you bring that forward to fiscal court?
those are things that the fiscal court would have to have the say on. And really, Don had a pretty good idea when he talked about a referendum vote on that. Because it comes down to pay fors at the end of the day, and it comes down to, how we pay for it. Now, I've heard some good things tossed around about some interlocal agreements and maybe some possibly raising the restaurant tax a couple of cents, which would be significant. And it would be multi-contributed, it'd be partners contributing into that. Now, if you, not only the takeoff cost, but you have to think about sustaining a facility like that. And when we get down to, we just got to see the numbers on it, basically. And I think that at that point, fiscal court and the folks in Nelson County would have to make the decision if they wanted to jump that far into it or not. I think we could do something that's less impactful. The splash park is one of those things. We could expand our recreation facilities. Right now, that's all we got in Nelson County for kids is our recreation department. And thank God they do what a good job that they do out there. But you talking about a facility, it'd probably be a $60 million facility. And, then you have to think about the incurring costs of how much it would cost to run it. We would have to really drill down on what that number is and how we're going to pay for it. And then at that point, if fiscal court wanted to take it up, then well, sure, we could talk about it.
Mr. Hutchins?
Ask the first part of the question. You said Marion County?
They're getting ready to put, fiscal court has budgeted $4.6 million for an indoor recreational facility, not a swimming pool.
Oh, I got you, okay, yeah, but we've got, Nelson County, when I became magistrate in '94, then I was heavily involved in sports, and we built what is known as Dean Moss Park, and that's been a very good thing for the community, soccer fields, football fields, baseball fields, and so on. I sat on the joint city-county recreation board. I actually helped form it, and I helped make the policies involved in that, and it's been a great thing. Now we need to move on, and there's going to be some proposed tax increases for some of this stuff for some people. I'm going to tell you right up front, I'm not in favor of it. The only way I would support proposed tax increases, we can raise the motel tax. You can't do it unless you have a convention center where you get some high dollar coming in from the different tourists, like you've got Nashville, Florida, but you got to have a convention center by state law. And I've tried that back in the day, and then hopefully if they can get some state laws changed with Senator Higgin and Candy Mastroni, and both counties getting ready to build a convention center pretty soon, another one. And if we do that, I think talking to Jerry Summers there, we probably got enough tourism and visitors and businesses that we could do that. And it would pay for itself through a motel tax, which would affect nobody here. And that's the way you need to do it, through the motel tax versus restaurant tax, in my opinion. Now, if the city wants to do something on their own, that's one thing. But I think this proposal is going to be coming, and the county judge did say that the time before he got sick, they were looking into some of that. I don't know what all the numbers today are, but Dennis, the maintaining of that thing is, how it is when you're pool over there. Once you get it built, we talked about this earlier too, and you repeated the question, by the way, and that's extra money.
Okay. All right, my next, okay. Dariana Hutchins. Hutchins.
Hi. So most of my questions have already been questioned by other people. So I just want to know, as to God-fearing men, what are the best qualities in your opponent, and if you weren't campaigning, why would be the best fit?
I didn't understand the question. Say it again.
If you were not campaigning for this position, I would like you to talk good about Eric. Why would he be the best fit for County Judge Executive, and Eric vice versa?
Well, I feel like he's probably a good role model, I'm assuming. I don't know Eric that well. I've got to meet him last 3 or 4 years, and his military service, I commend him on. He talks about he's big in his church, and I hope he is. I would be a little risky on his youth and inexperience. That's one thing that's, I think, what I'm running on now, so he don't have a whole lot of experience in the community, and, you know, he's still pretty young, so that's kind of like what Ronald Reagan said, you know, so I'll bring that up occasionally. Don't let the youth and inexperience get in my way, so, but other than that, I think you'd have to have a lot of training and learning on the job, and with me, you don't have to learn on the job, so I've been there and done it, and, you know, I've just about every aspect of the fiscal court I've been involved in, even on the private side, so, but, you know, I'm glad and fortunate that we got a race. You know, we could say if only one person ran, if he was to drop out, I guess I'll be the nominee. I mean, he can probably still do that if he wants to. I don't think we'll be that lucky. But, anyway, I mean, I guess I'll try to answer your question. His qualities, you know, like I said, military service, he was an electric lineman. You know, I commend him for that. And he's been a master for about 3 years, it is 3.5 years. But, and you can learn when you get in there and get a little older. And, you know, 10 years from now, you may be a little bit more qualified, and I might vote for him then.
Boy, that went south fast, didn't it? We started talking about my qualities that would be good, and we just went into I one more time. But anyways, I will tell you something. You know, I try to find something positive about everybody. And the one positive thing, I never knew Timmy till I got in this race. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. Didn't know his character. You know, but he's got a lot of work ethic. I'll give him credit for that. He works hard. He goes around. And I'm telling you, I'm in this race too. It's a lot of work. And you try to be 4 or 5 different places at one time. It's hard on you. It's hard on your family. And you know, another thing about Timmy, I hate to play basketball with him, because he cheat. He's gonna do what he can to win, and even if he has to buy it, he will try to buy it. So you know, he's. But as far as that's concerned, Timmy's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of work ethic.
David Ballard, who I might add just had a 50-year high school reunion, so that tells you how old he is.
You did, not me.
I was 60 years.
60.
I don't come up on this stage very lightly.
Hold the mic up a little bit closer.
I
A little bit closer. A little bit louder.
I can't swallow it. I have a unique perspective because I'm blessed to be married to one of the best public servants we've ever had in Nelson County. And Diane will really be upset with me for saying this, but Timmy came to me one day and asked me, why are you such a big supporter of Eric's? And I pretty succinctly explained about his character, his ethics, his morality, his love of family, love of God, love of our community. That made him the only choice in my mind for county judge exec, simply because he has all the
Not a campaign speech.
I'm not taking that.
Let's get to the question. Let's get to the question.
Get to the point.
Get to the question.
But Tim, you went off the rails earlier.
All right, get to the question.
All right. Why do you hold Joe Biden?
All right, let's hold that one. We agreed that everything's going to be, any questions from the audience? So let's hold that, David, please.
He brought that into the politics. I understand.
No, can't go back.
All right. Okay, well, I've got all I can say.
I know. Christy Hutchins.
Thank you. That's good.
That's good.
I just have a question for Eric. You earlier said,
Questions have to go to both candidates.
okay, for both. You said you don't identify earlier as a Democrat. So in the past 30 years, we've had a Democratic leader.
Let's get to a county issue? Is that what this is?
I was going to get there. I
Well, let's get
my
there.
work.
Let's get there.
Okay, great. What in the last 3.5 years as a magistrate did you disagree with the previous judge executive on? Or what would you have changed?
That's a really good question, Christy. You know, because there were things that me and Dean did not agree on. But I have a lot of respect for Dean. And the good thing about when I disagreed with Dean or we didn't see eye to eye on something was that when we walked away, we were still gentlemen with each other. You know, I know that he had his hands tied when we gave this last 7% raise. He wanted to give a 10% raise. I wanted to give more than that if the budget would afford it. But the problem with it is, and the judge executive, he has to really look at things from a wide perspective. So 2 magistrates would not get on board with a 10% raise. You have to, when you propose something and you want it to pass, we were fortunate to get a 7% raise. I wanted to do 10%. But you gotta know that if you don't get everybody on board, then you're not gonna get anything done. And also, when you think about giving these raises, it's real difficult to give one department something over another one. So when we gave the 7% raise, you know, the question was posed, why wouldn't you just give a certain department one, not the other? Yeah, they're all, the thing is, and this came from different department heads, if we did something different than everybody else, we were gonna have a mass exodus. So that was one of the things, and Dean also wanted to, you know, Dean was, he never really said either way, actually, on the short-term rentals throughout the county. I was against doing the short-term rentals throughout, restrictions throughout the county. I understand why Bardstown did it. I respect why they did it. But I really wasn't getting the feedback from where.
I mean, is that direct to me too?
Yes. Well, you have to talk about
For the last 3 years, I mean, I went up for 3 years.
what you ran. What
But
you
you wanna go back 17 years?
Let me rephrase her question. Let me rephrase her question.
30 years, she said.
How would you judge Dean Watts the last 3.5 years, and what would you disagree with in the things that he has done?
I haven't kept up with it every day. I gotta work for a living every day. I haven't been there for support.
But what has Dean done? Because we're gonna ask the question.
Well, they passed all these IRBs, that's one thing I would disagree with that much of a tax break, they went too far. And I think my opponent and the judge, they went too far with the tax breaks. You gotta be able to work with these factories and entries coming in, and you can't give them the bank. And you could have put, I mean, they got 30 years on top of that. Did you know that? 30-year moratorium, that's a long time. Well, I won't be living that long.
You ask you a question, go read the London Enterprise this week.
You said I can't do it.
You might learn something.
You told Raymond I can't do that, so anyway, I'm not gonna bring that up right now. Lebanon, we're not operating in Lebanon, we're operating in Nelson County. Nelson County is affected by that more than anybody in any county, 120 counties. So I would have disagreed with giving that, amount of IRB, breaks, that's $9 million a year. So just add it up, so that's one of the big things. And then the Pledge of Allegiance, you could have brought that up and probably started that, because there's been so much division in the last 10, 12 years in this country, when you're kneeling for the flag and burning the flag and the riots and the demonstration and tearing up, and you got the ball games and kneeling flag, so that's a change of life. It's a big deal to people nowadays, 10, 12 years. And there wasn't even an issue back in my day, because nobody concerned about it. And ever since you got all this new leadership coming up, it's gotten so bad. So, that's a big thing. Bring that up. It says right on your dollar bill, and dollar trust. Why we can't do the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer right there because it's court meeting. So I can go back, you may go back 30 years. I can go how much time I got? No, she said 30. And I think the policies of Joe Biden doesn't make a good difference in the county, like she said. And you got Democratic leadership in the judge, and they've gotten so much I can't answer Mr. Bowers' question, but I think,
We're not.
elections have consequences.
Oh, all right, time.
But I didn't-
Time is up.
Did you say time?
Yes,
she did.
Please, she raised the fence.
So, guys, we are out of time. We were only supposed to do an hour and a half. We're almost 2 hours. So we're going to have to wrap up.
I've got two
So,
questions.
yeah, hold on. Well, you have,
Couple questions.
well, you're not going to get two. You get one last one.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I'm good with that. All right, now, Mr. Ballard, part of the deal, Tim, I have a question. You have alluded several times tonight that elections have consequences, and you've mentioned several times Joe Biden, and kind of putting your opponent as a liberal Democrat in the policies of the Democratic Party. Elections have consequences. In 2020, we had a presidential election. The votes were tallied, and Joe Biden was elected the president. It upheld through court that way.
He cheated.
Whoa. Wait, let me explain one thing. Let me explain. No. Please give vote. Mr. Hudson, I told you. All right, let me say, according to what they agreed to, yes, they agreed that no questions from the audience would be that way. That was their agreement. That was their agreement. So my question to you, Tim, is we had a presidential election, the votes were counted, and let me say this, and according to when we talked about this, anything that has been said in the campaign was fair game for me to ask a question. Joe Biden and inflation.
I'll answer that. I don't have no problem.
We had an election.
I'm not shying away from anything. Go ahead.
We had an election. To this day, the former president has said he was cheated and it was not a fair election.
Okay.
We had an insurrection at the Capitol on January the 6th. We had, so let me ask you, if elections have consequences, do you agree with do you stand with what the former president has done? Because you have keep saying elections have consequences.
Let me answer. You have to stay with us if you want, that's fine. It's just, I don't try to run from anything. I think the question is a little out of character for what we do here, but anyway, I'll answer. I'm a Donald Trump supporter, and I think that voice is wise. I think it's a shame that the Democrats didn't put somebody that was stronger. They had a good, stronger person that was a businessman. I personally like a businessman running the country and being in business and all the elected positions. I like to see more business people running. So I've always been a supporter of his. Now, I don't agree with him on a lot of his vocabulary and a lot of his statements. So I don't call it an insurrection. You call it that. I call it a demonstration. He got a whole lot more people killed, and these riots all over the country that were murdered and destroyed property that they didn't lock any of them up. So if you want to do a comparison, I don't want to get in that debate. And I do think because of the pandemic and the election laws that they changed, the mass mail-in ballots, that there was a lot of wrongs in the way he did it. Now, did that go all the way as far as enough votes to keep him out or not? I don't know that, but I can't answer that. But I do think he was cheated, like when they did all those mass mailings because of the pandemic.
I don't give a shit.
Yes, weird. Is that for me or him?
That was for you. We're going to get Eric, quick rebuttal. Eric, you get your rebuttal. You get to respond.
Okay, so we still have audience questions. Are you both willing to stay here and answer their questions?
You gonna finish this question first?
Yeah. Eric, do you want to comment on that?
The question was whether the election was stolen or not, I guess.
And do you think the former president had any responsibility for what has happened since then?
That's probably better suited for the pundits on cable news networks, and I'm trying to focus my attention on county government. That's a question that is causing a lot of division in this country. And you know, I try to focus on my kitchen table issues and the issues that affect Nelson County the most.
Don't answer dumb questions. Don't answer. Don't answer.
So that's going to be my answer to that question.
All right, guys. Yeah. All right, guys. Oh, yeah, we're going to still have closing statements.
We have one more person.
No, there were several more people. We just don't have time. That's why I asked. Who wants to? If anyone wants to stay and ask questions, let's stay. If anyone wants to leave, then leave. Are you guys willing to stay and answer all the public questions?
I don't care, don't bother me, it's like whatever he wants to do.
Eric?
We'll go another 15 minutes, what about that? Is that fair enough?
Do the closing statements and let them stay.
Do you want to do the closing statements first, or the public comments, or questions?
I'm gonna get
Okay, so next up is Dee Dugan.
I don't care either way you want to do it.
Dee? You want to ask a question? Okay. Chris Bratton, sorry. Chris Bratton, I'm sorry. Okay.
Let's do closing statements. I'm losing interest.
All right, go ahead and close it.
We got to flip a coin over, right?
Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm a Donald Trump supporter, and I don't believe there was an insurrection. I'm a Donald Trump supporter, and I don't believe there was an insurrection.
And we don't care.
Well, that's fine. I'm going to flip this.
Call it?
We're talking about county.
Go ahead, call it.
We're a little bit
Literally
in
do
the
not
pot.
care about federal politics.
Tails it is. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Statewide political stuff to the state.
Okay.
Get the crowd.
You know, the fact that everyone is here is so encouraging to me because it just shows how important this election is. Again, I would like to thank everyone who put this debate together, for everyone who showed up, and for all the participants that came up and talked. And I want, except also, is that you? I want to thank my wife, my family, and everyone who has contributed to this campaign. Our momentum has grown, and it is continuing to grow. I'm proud of the fact that we have a true grassroots movement campaign that is developing. I'm proud to say we have over 60 contributors that have donated to our campaign, and I'm humbled by the volunteers that have stepped up to help. This all speaks to the importance of this election. It's important that we have a judge executive that we can work with our local government partners like the city of Bardstown and all of our other municipalities and each and every person across this county. I've been able to do that in the past, and I will continue to do that in the future. It is important that we have a judge executive that is committed to working for all Nelson County citizens, regardless of your political affiliation or your demographics. I'm the candidate that wants to unify our county as who we are, Nelson County. I want to bring everyone to the table and represent all equally. I am the candidate that will be the public servant to represent you. Elect me, Eric Shelburne, for Nelson County Judge Executive, and I will fight hard for you, as I did in the military, as I did on power lines, and as I did as I'm doing as a magistrate right now. I have relevant experience. My opponent has already admitted he's out of the loop, and that's significant. He hasn't served in over 12 years. It is so important that we have a seamless transition of leadership going forward. I'm going to ask that folks that are here or at home to look up my Facebook page, Eric Shelburne for Nelson County Judge Executive. Look up my website where you can volunteer and donate to my campaign. I just appreciate Don having us here tonight to where we can talk to the public and get the issues out on the table. And I thank everyone for coming out tonight.
Like my opponent, I want to thank everybody for coming, again, my wife, my family, and it's a journey and it's a lot of work, but, anybody knows me, knows my work ethic. I mean, I don't think nobody's gonna outwork me, so I feel confident that we'll be there to the finish line. And you can pretty much look tonight at the issues and the comments and the questions and answers and see who's the most qualified. I think it's pretty evident. And my background, and he made a comment about being out of the loop about 12 years, and well, I don't want to be like Golden Biden and some of these others have been there 50 years and get rusty, and I think everybody stays in office too long. And if you want to stay in, you need to get out and get another position or do something a little different. Because, and I did, I got complacent as a magistrate, I'll just tell you. So the last few years, it's time to move on to a different job, different position, and different responsibilities. And you know, my background, I won't get into it all again. Everybody can read my platform, and we'll have a few more debates. My opponent in the Democratic Party didn't back out of the PLG Kentucky Standard debate.
I never backed out anyway.
And you said you was gonna follow their party, so I mean, that's what y'all did. So we'll see, that's usually the most watched and historically best debate in the county is the Standard PLG. Over the years, traditionally, everybody follows it and watches it. And say what you want, but they backed out of it as of today. Maybe we'll get them back in, I hope, because like I told Don during the primary, I'll debate anybody, anytime, anywhere, any questions. I'm not dodging anything, and if I lose, I lose. I just think you gotta put out your platform and show people what you are. I know I'm a leader. I have hundreds and hundreds of employees and work with lots of people. And you need a good, strong Republican and county judge that can work with Jimmy Higdon and Candy Mascaroni and all the Republican leaderships and Tom Massey and Rand Paul and Brett Guthrie and these people to bring the money home, because that's where our problem has been now, because we haven't been bringing it home, because you've got to have a good relationship with the elected leaders and everyone on the rest of Republicans. That's a fact. I'm not telling you anything that's not a fact. And I know all these people personally. I've met with them personally, talked with them personally, got their cell phones personally. And just letting you know that, and I'm there for the people and do the right thing. And I wish my opponent good luck, and we'll find out who wins at the end. Thank you for your time. And one other little thing, Dennis, sewer things, sometime you can talk about that. There is a policy where the county can be graded off of the sewers. They call it a 201 plan, just to let you know that. And I've got a library representative here, and there's been some statements thrown at me too about library, and I'm 100% against closing library.
I want to thank everybody.
Thank you for your time.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I especially want to thank the candidates for coming out and debating this. The Nelson County American First PAC, if you haven't noticed, is a conservative Republican group. For Eric to come and participate says a lot. And I appreciate my former opponent, Tim Hutchins, who also showed character in coming out to a debate sponsored by an organization I'm involved with. So gentlemen, I commend you both for showing up and debating and letting people in this county have a voice in asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.